founder of Unicargo. How are you doing today, Refael?
I'm good, thank you very much. Happy to be back.
I'm
It's
so
been a long
happy to have you
time.
back. It has. Well, I think I had you in June or July, so it's not too long, but it has been a while. But I'm super excited about today's podcast because it's going to be the most boring podcast since I've brought you on, in a good way, because there's not that much going on every single time you've been on in the last 2.5 years, I think. There's
I've
always
been
been
to the bad news, yeah.
it's always been bad news and some sort of problem in supply chain. So I'm happy that today we're going to do sort of like a supply chain update, but it's all mostly good stuff.
Yeah.
For the people who live under a rock and don't know who you are, can you really quickly just give us a quick introduction to you and Unicargo?
Yeah, so my name is Refael. I'm the founder and until recently the CEO of Unicargo. We've been in business since 2015, basically a dedicated freight forwarder to the e-commerce space, mostly Amazon sellers. But we've grown since, in the past 7 years, and today we service not only Amazon sellers, but just people who trade online, mostly bringing their stuff, bringing their products from different countries, different countries to different countries, store them, ship them. We started dealing with reverse logistics, handling all the returns. So basically, everything supply chain, everything logistics, that's our business.
Awesome. Great. So let's get into updates. We're filming this today is the 6th of October 2022, and we're in the middle of until tomorrow, basically, the Golden Week National Day holiday in China.
Yeah.
And let's talk. And then last week or a few days ago, there was Hurricane Ian, and I asked you before we started. So let's talk a little bit about current events and also how to prepare for the future. What's happening right now in the supply chain and logistics world?
So basically, as I told you before our call, it's pretty boring for us. Everything is basically got back to normal. It happened much faster than all of us thought it would. Basically, we thought it would take about 2 to 3 to 4 years for prices to get back to pre-COVID levels. But reality, as I told you, nobody really knows. It's all assumptions and estimations. But as of today, container prices are pretty much back to pre-COVID levels, below $2,000 from Shanghai to Los Angeles. Again, prices were lower 2018, 2017, 2016. But as of right now, prices are pretty similar to 2019. 40 high cube containers on the, again, Asia to Los Angeles to the West Coast. We're talking about just shy of $2,000, 1,900. You can even find 1,800 for the container, just port to port. East Coast is still higher than pre-COVID. We're talking about $6,000 a container from Shanghai to New York or other East Coast ports. But these are going down as well. Not as fast as the West Coast, but because of congestion on East Coast ports. Again, it's not congestion like we had in COVID of 100 vessels, but we're looking at about 10, 15, 20 vessels right off the coast of New Jersey, New York. Charleston and Savannah were severely affected previous month, but it's getting better now. But that's basically the main driver for prices still being elevated, still being higher than 2019. But the trend is going down. Usually in all of the years that I've been in business, in past year, before major holidays, just like now, the Chinese Golden Week, prices were going very sharply up, just because people were in a rush to take products out of China, and there was a big boom of products. And again, this year we haven't seen any peak season at all, not before the Golden Week or anything for August, September, which is usually peak season for shipping. So we are actually seeing prices going down, which has never happened before on peak season or before major holidays. Prices were never going down; it was always going up. Both ocean and air. It's very important to mention. Air freight is also going down. The main reason for that basically is first, congestion is off, right? There is no congestion in Los Angeles. Europe is getting much better as well. But the main factor is there is less volume in the market. There's just less product being produced and shipped to the US or to Europe, and that's the main driver of prices going down. Again, usually we would see the market flooded with shipments, flooded with cargo, and it's pretty boring. As I said, freight forwarders are all in attack mode, going back to all the clients and just trying to scrape volumes from whatever they can. It's crazy out there. It's a bloodbath, really. An Amazon seller or the shippers doesn't really see it, but we as a freight forwarder being involved in that industry, we are seeing it.
Can see it.
We see a very different thing now. That's about it for prices. It's very good news basically for Amazon sellers. Again, I'm not going into actual sales volume because I guess sales volume being affected, that's part of this butterfly effect, right? The ripple effect of this whole economic slowdown. So I'm guessing sales are lower than what we've seen in the previous years, all right? I'm seeing it on the volume side, right? But again, sales are what driving volume, sales are what driving shipping. So I'm guessing sales are lower now. We can see it from Amazon, yeah, right? Amazon is coming off with second Prime Day. Yeah, I don't know. Have they done it before in previous year?
No, they in 2020 they moved Prime Day to October. They've never added it. They also now aren't calling it Prime Day. They're calling it Prime Early Access Sale. But when you go into Seller Central and you want to make a coupon or whatever, it says Fall Prime Day. So like FALL fall with my New Zealand accent. Anyway, so they're calling it a Fall Prime Day. But I was thinking about how they're doing a Fall Prime Day. So it's 11th and 12th of October. And then next month we have, Cyber Monday and Black Friday. So it'll be interesting to see how that impacts on sales. But on a supply chain level, you should have already had your stock in Amazon for Q4. So yeah. But no, we've never seen it. And yes, I can tell you that I think it's very dependent on the Amazon seller side. Some people's sales have been impacted and some sales have not been impacted. So I think it depends. But you guys also work with really big brands as well. And you guys also work with aggregators, etc. And there may be also a bit of a difference from the average seller.
Yeah, but again, the aggregator market is a bit different because it's mostly VC money, and the whole system of decision making is different than a smaller sellers. Completely different. So I take it, as I'm not taking it as an example, right? Because the market acts differently, completely differently from how you would run your own business selling on Amazon, right? What you just said about sellers should have had their products already in for Q4. Considering this market condition with transit time, also getting back to normal, even if you'll ship out product now, you'll probably have it before October, right? If you ship to the West Coast before end of October. So
October.
Yeah, things are moving pretty fast. So if you don't have your stock yet, I guess it's good news because things are moving very, 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 very fast now. Los Angeles, we don't have any congestion at all. So if you have a container departing next week, it will take it about 15-16 days for the vessel to arrive LA. And taking into consideration there is no congestion, it'll take about 2 to 3 days for the container to be available for pickup. So almost less than 20 days from departure until you can have your container on hand, delivered to wherever you want. That's pretty sweet. Again, that's that's the exact opposite from what we've had in the past 2.5 years, right?
Yeah.
So it's a new thing for us as well.
So I have a question about the prices. I only have this question because you already told me about it before. So I'm now bringing it to the table. So prices are going down, but the shipping lines don't want prices to go down. So what are shipping lines trying to do in order to fight the spot rates being so low?
All right, that's a great point. Obviously, shipping lines. When I say shipping line, I'm talking about the carriers, the guys who run the vessels. 𝗓𝗢𝗓𝗓𝗓, COSCO, OCL, these guys, MSC, Maersk. So they are trying to battle spot rates from falling, obviously, because they have contract rates. I mean, longer term deals with big importers on higher rates than the spot market, right? The spot market is still much lower than a contract rate market. So in reality, it means if you, Sharon, ship, I don't know, you start a new business tomorrow and that's your first container you've ever done, you'll probably pay lower than what big importer pays. It's absolutely ridiculous, and that's what the shipping line are trying to fight, because they've secured their importers on deals 6 months ago and 3 months ago and 4 months ago, before there was crazy decline in the spot market. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to cancel a lot of these voyages, right? They're trying to control supply artificially. And again, less supply, more demand, which would mean the price should go up. So we are seeing reports, because there is market analytics and market data, that there's going to be 30% blank sailing after the Golden Week, which means for the month of October and maybe slightly into November, they would be 30% of the volumes for shipping lines. 30% of the vessel would be just canceled, is what we call blank sailing. Usually previous years after Golden Week, for example, because everybody is shipped before the Golden Week, after the Golden Week, they would cancel 10% of the volume just to have freight built up in China, you know, manufactured, ready, so there will be volume in the market. So vessels won't go out empty. So usually they would cancel 10% of the volume. This year they're gonna cancel 30%. To be honest, I don't think that would help them pretty much, because they've been trying to do it in the past couple of months now, and that didn't stop prices from falling down. So I don't see 30% of the capacity being canceled controlling freight anymore, controlling the prices. I think it's too little. At the end of the day, there is no much volume in the market, and that's kind of COVID ripple effect. Remember that the big importers, the medium importers, they got used to a certain amount of sales volume in COVID, which was very high. And they bought and made their whole supply chain work according to that. So they imported a shitload of products, and all of a sudden sales stopped or reduced. So now they are sitting on stocks, right? So they are all overstocked, and that's why there is no much volume in the market, right? Again, when we talk about big importers, we're talking about market movers, right? Walmart, Costco, Target, big guys, they're all overstocked. So they are the big market drivers. Amazon, by the way, by the reports, Amazon are shipping more and more, by the way, on Amazon shipping. So they have basically, we've only seen, again, based on the reports and data that they publish, we've only seen their TEU amounts going up quarter by quarter. So the amounts of containers Amazon is carrying is getting bigger and bigger. And as a strategy, we all think, and again, by the actions Amazon is doing, also by providing sellers, for warehousing now, long-term warehousing in a different facilities or same facility, but they won't say it. But we are seeing Amazon going very hard into the supply chain business, just like they did with the cloud, just like they did with the fulfillment. They'll probably do good. So I think Amazon looks at supply chain as their next, big move, as a strategy to go into the shipping world. And we've seen it by 𝗕𝗓𝗓, Amazon Global Logistics. Now they are starting warehousing. They started, taking over the last mile, taking some business from FedEx and UPS. But we see that they are going to get more and more into that realm, into that business, as they see it as a big profit generator, another revenue stream for Amazon, for the big Amazon. So it's going to be interesting. I guess within a year or two, we're going to see Amazon offering freight, shipping services to any other importer, whether he sells on Amazon or not. They'll start acting as a big 3PL, both domestically and internationally. So that's going to be interesting. They'll probably start buying a lot of smaller companies for the facilities, customer service, customer flows, not for the volumes, but for other stuff. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. And that's it. I told you it's going to be boring today.
No, okay. So a few things came up while you were speaking. The part about Amazon's interesting, that it's an interesting thing. The first thing I thought about was if, their, their support people or anything like what they are on, Seller Central support. I would never ship through Amazon for, just on the support side. But yeah, let's wait and see what happens with that. I have a few quick questions. The first one is, I know in China, with they still doing daily COVID tests and etc. So I asked you, but I just want everyone to hear it. I asked you before we went live, there is some sort of impact still on manufacturers, but manufacturers is a different story from the logistics. So on supply chain and the ports in China, obviously, currently it's the Golden Week, but apart from that, everything's back to normal. You said to me, right?
Yeah. Okay. The Chinese learned to live with their government,
and with COVID.
Their everything they do there. Sometimes they have to do 2 tests a day, right?
Yeah.
Drivers had to take tests in order to get into certain facilities. It's crazy, but again, they learned to live with it. It's been going on there for like 3 years now.
Yeah.
So they basically learn to live with it. We on an operational level, from the freight forwarding perspective, we don't see any restrictions or problems moving freight or getting freight to warehouses or container stations on time. It's been working pretty good. If they have to do tests, they do the test. Drivers are getting used to it. Again, with China, there is no telling. You can't really tell. You might wake up the next week and find out that they've closed all of Shenzhen and nothing comes out. We've seen that happen as well. Again,
but at this point in time, it's smooth.
Yeah, this time it's pretty smooth. We don't see, again, internally, we don't see any problems moving freight, picking up freight, getting cargo out. On the contrary, there's a lot of volume to be. There is a lot of supply, basically. So a lot of supply, less demand. No problem.
So Chinese New Year, let's quickly talk about that. Chinese New Year next year is supposed to be on the 22nd, we said, right, of January. I've been telling people to get their stock out of, for now, to already start putting their orders in and to get their stock out by around the 7th of January. And then you told me that your advice is by the 1st of January to just already try and get your stock out.
Yeah, again, every supplier works differently, but again, usually about a week before the actual holiday day, the celebrated day, which is the 22nd. Usually a week before, factories will start closing out. People will, their employees, their worker,
start going home.
Their staff will start going home, start to travel home. And it's very important to know that in China, they're all working immigrants in the big cities. They don't really come from the big cities. They come from villages all across
around
the country. And by the way, the Chinese New Year is the biggest human immigration in the world. It's huge number of people just traveling by air, by trains, by buses. So there will be huge congestion, airports and train stations. So they'll take about a week before the actual holiday to start traveling, and a week after. That's why the Chinese New Year, it's really 3 or 4 days, but it's actually an event. It takes almost
about a month. Yeah.
Until people coming back, until they're going. A lot of employees don't really get back to work after that because they're trying to replace, trying to improve their, trying to renegotiate their salaries. So there's a big thing around that. But I would say get your products ready by the 1st of January. The first week of January, start getting them out so you won't get caught in this whole mess. Again, we don't know on the logistics perspective. We don't know if it's going to be craziness like we've seen in 2018, 2019 of, huge amounts of cargo and, people are fighting over space. I don't know with the current market situation if we will see that same events happening again, but just in case.
That also creates usually an increase in price. Usually in previous years, just before Chinese New Year, there's been an increase in price. And what you're also saying is, that may not happen this year, but better be safe than sorry and try and get your stock out as early as possible anyway. And then, of course, you need to take into consideration again that there's a month off in China, and then by the time they get back and start manufacturing orders, so you also need enough stock for a good couple of months.
Exactly. Until you manufacture, until you ship it, but don't forget that also everybody else is placing their orders now to get out before Chinese New Year. So you want to be as fast as possible with placing your order, with organizing your whole logistics planning, or for example, how long do you need to manufacture, what's the queue, the lead time, the shipping. Then you gotta figure out your sales for next year, how they're gonna look like, or you can't really know, but you gotta estimate. We need to understand when is your next production cycle after the Chinese New Year. So there's a lot of planning involved in this time of the year, both for Q4 and then for the first quarter, keeping in mind the Chinese, that's being shot and all.
Okay, I have one last question before we wrap it up. Hearing you talk about how now prices have gone down, and it will also in some way impact, freight forwarders as well. The first thing that comes to mind on my end is, shady Chinese freight forwarders. And what I mean by that is if it's impacting in some way, the freight forwarding business model. So now this is more from me now to the listeners, for the people who are using, let's just say they're suppliers, freight forwarder, or doing it, DDP through their supplier. I would say that it's a time to be a little bit more cautious and a little bit, because on our side as sellers, it looks like, oh, great, there's no more congestion, prices have gone down, etc. But on the other side, on the freight forwarders, they want to be able to make money. And we already know, I know especially, that they'll find dodgy ways of making money. So my tip would be to also be a little bit more careful,
so here's what happens. From a freight forwarder perspective, the past 3 years have been the golden era for freight forwarders. Again, prices have never been so high since containerized shipping history. Basically, since they invented containers in the 60s, late 50s, prices would never be on those levels, which means, again, freight forwarders' margins were
high.
The same, but profits were high. The margins were the same. But again, if you buy a container for $1,000 and if you buy a container for $20,000, the profit is different, right? There's a cash flow problem. You gotta finance all of these containers, but at the end of the day, the profits are higher. Let's say your profit margin is 10%, your profit is different if your buying price is $1,000 or 20,000, which means in the past 2.5 years, profits, the actual profits for freight forwarding companies has been through the roof, right? Record years like we've never seen before. Again, we can see it from, you know, the stock reports on the shipping line, right? The actual shipping line made billions and billions of dollars in profit, though profits that they've never done in the past 20 years, right? So what happens now, where prices are coming back to normal, the profits themselves for the freight forwarding industry are going down drastically, which means if on the smaller Chinese freight forwarders or a smaller freight forwarding firm, if let's say a guy from China starts a freight forwarding firm tomorrow for Amazon, because it's very easy for them, we see these companies rise every single day. And if they've been in business for the past 2 years, they are used to very high profits, right? And all of a sudden, these profits are gone. So they would try to cut more corners or trying to offer some shady deals in the market. Again, there is a huge bloodbath on the freight forwarding side. Just make sure you don't get lured into a too good to be true deal, or unrealistically lower price, because they would try doing it and come up with all these surprises in the middle. So just be wary about, again, who you ship with, how long they've been in business. Again, it's a good advice for every time, but in this particular time, it's even super important to understand who you're shipping with. Again, if it's your first time, I completely understand it's easier to have your supplier deal with it. But at the end of the day, your supplier is hiring a freight forwarder. And again, I don't know how much experience your salesperson on that supplier has with shipping, with logistics, and who he contracts. It's a huge thing that you don't see. It's an industry of kickbacks, right? The freight forwarder would pay suppliers some under-table money to send him leads and send him business, and there would be kickbacks there. So the interests that are behind the scenes, you don't really see them, and you just want to make sure you kind of have confidence of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah, drink some water. I think that's I wanted to bring that up because, you know, in general, the history of how I actually started my relationship with Unicargo like 5 or however many years ago was because I had a major issue with a Chinese freight forwarding company. And there were things that I didn't know that I obviously know now and have known for a long time, but I also wanted to say that sometimes when there's, you know, something like this can happen, then it can cause for shady stuff to go on. And I just wanted to bring that up. So mostly good news today, almost all good news for Amazon sellers. Prices have gone down, no congestion at this point in time, which is great. Anything else you want to add before we wrap it up for today, Refael?
Well, I think we pretty much covered it all.
Great.
I'm very happy for sellers, you know, especially the newer sellers just started in the past year or 2 years, that all they've known are huge prices.
Huge prices.
High prices. That's all they're known. I have employees here who've never seen prices, you know, like we have now. It's pretty funny. They've never even expected these rates, right? So again, if you're an Amazon seller and you just started in the past 2 years, it's a great time for you, because again, your margins are going up now. You got used to much harder conditions, market conditions, and now they are easing up. So enjoy it.
Yeah, agreed.
And hopefully it's here to last.
Yep, hope so. All right, Refael, thank you so much for this update. Obviously, if there is anything goes on during Q4, I'll bring you back and we'll do another Q4 sort of update. If anyone wants to reach Unicargo, you're not good at this, so I'm going to do it. If anyone wants to reach out to Unicargo, first of all, the website is www.unicargo.com. What is the best email to reach? People shouldn't email you anymore, right? Because you're just way too busy now. What's the best email to reach Unicargo? Sales@unicargo.com?
info@unicargo.com, service@unicargo.com, Refael@unicargo.com. That's also fine. I'm pretty fast on forwarding it to the team. And social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, website, just Google search Unicargo and you will find tons of ways to reach us out.
Awesome. Great stuff. Thank you, Refael. This was the best update we've done together since making content together. I'm really happy for that. And yeah, we'll see you next time you come on, and I'll see everyone next week. Thank you. Thank you very much.